Welcome, another episode, Dr. James Beckett Sports Card Insights, here with Eric Norton, Paul Wirth, the original Fat Packs. We're going to talk about then and now. These guys were the Fat Packs, are the Fat Packs. They will live on forever, as most digital things do. But we're going to talk about the early days, the glory days, and some aftermath. So thanks, sponsors, Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication, ComC.com, Burbank Sports Cards, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Heritage Auctions, Huggins & Scott Auctions, Upper Deck, Panini, and Topps. So welcome, Paul and Eric, the original Fat Packs. Tell us what it was like at Beckett, actually Beckett Publications, which is when I was the boss. And when I sold, it became Beckett Media. There was some digital, more radio when I was there that had been launched and started. That predates you, Eric, as well as Paul. But that was kind of cooking along, but not a lot of attention was given to it when I was there, and not a lot of attention, I think. So tell us that story, guys.
So
and welcome to the show.
Thanks. So really credit here has to be given to Justin Gruner and Derek Ficken, because they got it started. They got Beckett Radio started. I believe, Jim, what you're referring to is something that Rich Klein did, if I'm not mistaken. Is that?
There was one before that too.
Oh, okay. All right. So
in the 90s.
So with Justin and Derek did, they really started it, and our good friend Mr. Dan Hitt had a completely different vision for what the podcast what he wanted it to be. He wanted it to be an informational, how to do things on the Beckett website type thing. And that's kind of what it started as. And then it morphed into, a weekly show that wasn't getting really a lot of downloads and play. And when about the time Paul started, maybe a week or so, maybe a month or so after, I basically begged. They were going to kill it. They were going to kill Beckett Radio. And I begged him. I said, please let me do this the way I want to do it. And I promise you it'll be better. When Paul and I first started doing the show together, it was getting like 150 downloads a week. And by the first month we got done doing 4 shows, it was getting 350, 500 downloads a week. And it just grew from there. They were absolutely going to kill it. They had no sponsorship behind it. They didn't understand what it was. And I had to beg them to please let me do it the way I wanted to do it. And it turned into the Fat Packs.
Well, that meant doing it in your spare time.
Yes.
But it also meant you injecting some of yourself into it. I think you made it fun. And it's more fun to listen to something where somebody's enjoying themselves and not reading a script or espousing a party line. So, Paul, what do you bring to it? I mean, I think we've heard a little bit from you, but here's you're observing what Eric's doing. Were you eager to add another thing to your plate?
Oh yeah, I mean, it was the fun aspect of it. I mean, what we do as analysts is a great job. It's mundane and boring. It's just like any job. So being able to do the podcast, get out there, and I mean, I have a lot to say about a lot of things. So it was a good way to channel some of that out there, and just doing it with Eric was just fantastic. And I like the fact we didn't have a script. Man, I'm an off-script impromptu guy. So I think that kind of worked out well. And we just tried to have fun. We tried to make it PG, so the kids could listen to it. Because at the end of the day, we just wanted to have something that everybody could listen to, whether you were 80 years old or 8 years old. And I think we accomplished that on some level for sure.
Yeah.
Were you guys a lot of, most of the podcasts I listened to, it sounded like you guys were, sitting in the same room, not like COVID stuff. And then to what extent did you have a lot of on location type opportunities? Kind of like the National now has a pavilion and some of the major events. So were you guys having a kick out of being at some events and doing things together there as well?
Well, yeah, we were in the same room. That worked. We had the Fat Pack Studio, which is still in existence, so that's cool. But we were always together, which helped. Chemistry that helped a lot of everything that went on the show. But when we finally got to go to travel again,
what was our first event? Do you remember?
It was.
Remember we went first? I don't remember now.
It was the National Yeah, it was the National, and it was in Chicago.
Okay.
So when we finally got to go to some events, and the National was one of them, we went to Toronto a few times together. And when that finally happened, it was because there was sponsorship money behind it. They weren't just going to let us go. And now it's a little bit different. Now we can go. There's got to be some money coming in about it, but we're going and having fun. But that all led up. It really led up to what I think my favorite road trip was with Paul. I honestly, I was thinking about this and just laughing and smiling. Was our trip to spring training out in Arizona. And I can't tell you that I ever had a better time with Paul out on the road. We drove all over the Phoenix Scottsdale area for
idea where we were.
No idea. Just not that you would know this song, but Drake's God's Plan played probably 150 times on the radio, and it was, but it was just a fun time.
It was a fun time. We got to interview the mascot for a shop. Remember that?
Yeah, that was really great.
Yeah, so that was a good trip. And doing the industry summit was cool too. Being able to go to that because I'd never been to an industry summit. I'd been to some other places before, but not that. So, yeah, man, being on the road was probably the coolest part. And then just getting to meet all the people we got to meet. I mean, if you go back through, it's a pretty good lineup that we had as far as guests and meeting a lot of these people in person. Not just over the phone. We got to meet a ton of them in person. So that was always fun.
Right.
I got a question for you. How did you know at the peak there when everything's going great and you're having a great time? How do you guys know when the episode's over? I mean, I know when my episode's over because I stop at 15 minutes, but you guys are having so much fun. How do you know the episode's over?
I have the answer, but I'll let Paul answer.
Yeah, I don't even know, man. I think it was more when somebody was tapping on the window going, "Hey, you need to get back to doing what you were supposed to be doing." Probably was part of it. But no, I mean, we just had all kinds of segments, and we could probably go for hours at a time. But I guess there's a reality to it.
So if you listen to the Fatbacks, there's always an opening segment, usually 2 interview segments, and then that will get you to the final segment. And I can tell you when the episode was over. When I asked Paul a question about a movie, and that was the signal for we're wrapping this up because Paul doesn't know.
Paul doesn't know the answer. Paul does not know the answer at all.
That's the reason people loved it.
And the Animal Kingdom stories too. Those are pretty funny.
Okay. What about one of the things that I see when I look at my listener statistics is that I get a fair number of people listening to episodes from the past. Did you guys have that much, or when you looked at it, or was it mainly this week's episode? People were listening, that evening or the next day.
It's a lot of that, Jim. It really is. People getting the back episodes. I think what happened is, the new episode might have pulled in a new listener, and the new listener said, "Oh, this is catchy. Let me check out some backlog," and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, 100%. And we had so many themed ones that you could go back through, and we broke down certain sets, and we broke down so many different themes that you could go back through there and just like, oh, that's interesting, and click on it. So I think it was set up real well as the library or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
When people think of Fat Packs, they think of you guys, and now the last couple of years they think of Eric. But if Fat Packs is not really, it's sort of being morphed into this Beckett Live Presents. There's a great catalog of old, things never die when they go to when they go to digital heaven. But Erica, tell us about how Beckett Media is moving into a kind of a different mode of presentation.
Yeah, so now we're doing Beckett Live Presents, like you just said. It's a video format, and it's live on Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope. It's essentially, more or less, it's the Fat Packs just rebranded. It's the same kind of interview. I'm still doing the interviews. I'm still doing all the prep work and everything that I did with the Fat Packs. But on the backside, there's not a lot of post production that I have to worry about. So it's morphed into a little something more streamlined, where I'm not having to carve out a lot of extra time to produce something and get it out there every week. Well, this is live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And you can just tune in and watch it if you want to, much like Paul's Breaking.
But Fat Packs had a lot of individual segments. I thought there were a lot of transitions, and like I said, when that's audio, it's can be. I mean, it's not automatic, but it's a lot easier than video. But I had the sense that the video is more one big segment.
It can be. We've typically rolled out one big guest, or maybe a pair of guests, or a round table type thing, but we do take little commercial breaks, little 30-second ad breaks, and we'll come back on the other side of that with a different guest from time to time, and it's pretty fun that way.
Talk about video versus audio, both you guys. I mean, the world. I mean, when you're doing a break, it'd be pretty hard to just do an audio break. Hey, you win,
Yeah, I wouldn't be in business if I was doing audio.
Not
break.
For long.
Not for long.
Break, and I'm sorry you didn't quite make it, but.
Oh, that's funny.
But Eric, have you noticed? Are the listeners or viewers different when you're more video centric, or the same people and they're just getting the bonus of watching if they want to and listening anyway?
So the biggest difference is the listener or viewer interaction, and I can see who's in the chat. I can interact with them in the chat if I want to, or just make it interact with them on the show. With the audio, as you know this, Jim, you just kind of throw it out there, and if it gets a comment, it gets a comment, and then hopefully people are listening and paying attention. With the live video, it's a lot more. Oh, okay. Donnie's listening, and I know Donnie. He was a Fat Packs listener, or Janice from TriStar is listening. Okay, great. Hi, Janice. How are you doing? It's a lot easier to. With that being said, there's also a lot more work having to pay attention to
Yes.
the question you're asking, the answer that you're supposed to be listening to, and the live feed. So it's a it's a lot more work doing that, but it's a lot more interactive as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, it's the same for breaking. When I'm breaking and I'm opening packs, there's usually a 20-second delay from where I say something and then they ask a question. So you're trying to keep up with opening the packs, making sure everything's taken care of, and then answering their questions on that delay. So the delay makes it a little difficult. It makes for some funny jokes too, because if you're off 20 seconds, it can get pretty funny. So, but
it takes some skill. I mean, basically, we're used to watching network news and TV programs. They seem to be doing something like that. That's like these Zoom or these other video conferencing kinds of situations, but they have something called a producer. Figuring out, cut to camera one and let's put this here and put that there. And so, Eric, if you're wearing, again, you must be good at wearing more than one hat, because if you're doing that, you've got to figure out, hey, what's going on the screen? What's going on the sideboard with the chat and comments and things like that? Do I cut away to this? But the preparation for that Paul has alluded to is that when I first started this, and I should have known from listening to you guys that podcasting, anybody that thinks you're going to do podcasting and you're going to script it is crazy. Even if you did script it, it wouldn't even be fun if it was scripted.
Right.
So you've got to be nimble. You've got to be ready to respond to comments and questions. So, but the live aspect, has that been a challenge or an opportunity or an excitement for you, Eric? Because you put live in the title. It wasn't Fat Packs Live, I didn't think, was it?
No, not sure what.
But you guys had a chance to edit out stuff like I do.
Yeah. So it's not a challenge. I wouldn't call it a challenge, but it is exciting. With that being said, just like I alluded to earlier with watching the comments, I'm very, very careful and mindful about who's saying what. Especially if I have a sponsor on and in the comment section, they're just going off about how bad that said sponsor was. Well, I gotta boot you. You can't be in here. So it's, I'm very Jim. I know that you've been on the Hobby Hotline a few times and as a guest, and they take calls on that show, and that's really cool. And we have the same ability to do that. I'm just very careful about who I'm just going to let pop on, though, because I don't know if I don't know you, I'm not going to let you just come on and say whatever it is you want to. And then the other thing that tends to be a lot of work is, and I'm very thankful for the viewership, but people popping on asking questions that has nothing to do with the topic that we're speaking of on the evening. And I'm like, I'll get to your question in just a moment, but right now we're talking about this. So those guys don't tend to like the live feed too much sometimes. And
you're having to do that chat on the side while you're still paying attention to what's going on.
Right.
That sounds like a job. Sounds like it ought to be a high paid job, Eric. I'm a fan. I think anybody that's out there doing stuff, but you're doing that plus a whole bunch of other things. And Paul, you had that same situation, so you know what Eric's going through, and now you've got your own thing down in Waxahachie, and I'm removed from the Beckett Media offices as well. Not removed, but I'm not there, and a lot of friends are there. As I'm sure, Paul, you have that same sentiment. But you probably don't miss the commute.
No, not as much. But I do still do BGS submissions, so there's still some commute there. So
yeah, I do too occasionally, but I don't get when I do the submissions, but I don't get them back.
I was going to say, you're going to say you didn't get a discount. Yeah, getting
discount. No discount is enough if you don't get your cards back. So, I mean, I'll eventually get them back, and they're great guys. And the way you get a black, Paul, just to end this, we're out of time. The way you get a black is to submit a perfect card.
Is that how it is?
And I'm going to have to do a whole episode on this. Is that there are people that are better at grading than others that can look at a card and say, and some of them are former graders from various companies, and they can say, I think this is a good chance to get a black, or at least a 10, which I don't have that skill. So thanks, guys. Great being with you, and keep up the good work and doing what you're doing. Paul, much success in your store and your breaking. And Eric, I'm going to be a subscriber and listener to Beckett Live Presents. Enjoy y'all's work, and keep up the good work. So thanks again.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.